Hola amigos, Dr. Lebrun aquí. Today we're going to take a look at Romance de la Pérdida de Alama. So I'll explain it for you in English so you can understand the poem better, but then also prepare you to be able to answer in Spanish when it comes time to take your test. So the first thing that we should look at is the title, Romance de la Pérdida de Alama. So romance is kind of tricky because it translates as ballad, ballad of the loss of the Alhambra. And we'll take a look at whose perspective it is from. So let's get you ready for your test. So the first thing that we need to know, we don't know who the author is. So anónimo is our best answer for that one. It comes from the oral tradition, or tradición oral. And so that's why it's romance, it's a ballad. It was originally a song that somebody might sing as they went around to tell a story. And so we don't know who the original author is because it comes from the Época Medieval. And so it was written maybe 1,000 or 700 years ago, anytime between the time 1000 to 1492. We don't know exactly when, but it's so old that we don't know who the author was, but eventually got written down, and now we can read it as a poem or listen to it as a song or a ballad. So the theme that it can pertain to is sociedades en contacto, so societies in contact. And let's take a look at the societies that might be in contact with each other. Okay, so we need to remember about los moros in España, 711 a 1492. So if you remember back to world history, that the Moors or the Muslims or the Arabs, they invaded Spain in 711, and they made their way into northern Spain, and then through the Reconquest, starting in 718 with the Battle of Covadonga, the Christians won that battle and then started pushing the Spaniards back into Africa, started pushing the Moros back into Africa, and then in southern Spain, in Andalusia, in 1492 was the year that all the Arabs were kicked out of Spain. So those are important years and dates to remember. All right, so El Mapa de Andalusia. So in southern Spain, closest to Africa is where it has the most Arab influence. And this ballad pertains to something in the city of Granada, the Alhambra or the Alhama. And so this is where we see the most Arab influence. And this is what they're talking about. So today we call it La Alhambra. Some people say El Alhambra, but in the poem it's called Alama. And that gives you an idea of the Moorish architecture and the palm trees, its warm climate, and the importance of water in their culture. All right, so some palabras importantes, some important words to understand this poem a little bit better. Cabalgar is to ride an animal. Añafil is a musical instrument played by the Moors. Fablo equals hablo, which means spoke. So sometimes the H's and the F's are switched in archaic language. Alfaqui is an old wise man. Cana gray hair, which also signifies age or wisdom. And then tornadizos, newly converted Christians that came from Muslims. And so these people were not exactly trusted as Christians because all of the Moors had to leave Spain. Sometimes their intention was questioned if they had truly converted or if they were just saying that they had converted to Christianity to be able to stay in Spain. And this is our sociedades en contacto tema. So our societies in contact with each other are the Christians and the Muslims. All right, so our summary is about the Reconquista, the conflicto entre los cristianos y los moros. So it's about the reconquest that started in 718 with the conflict between the Christians and the Muslims in Spain. And so it's written from the perspective of a Muslim, de la perspectiva de un moro. So that might be a test question to try and figure out. They might ask you, is it from whose perspective is it from? Or if it's multiple choice, they might give you, is it from the Muslims or the Christians or some other options? It's a ballad about the loss of the Alhambra, which was a very important cultural palace and fortress for the Muslims. And this was the last Muslim stronghold in Spain, which they had controlled southern Spain for eight centuries. All right, so influencia de los moros en España. Some other things that you might be looking for is the influence of the Moors in Spain. Hay 4,000 palabras árabes en español. So one example could be that there's 4,000 Arabic root words in Spain. Some other things could be the architecture, could be customs. Mi casa es su casa, my house is your house. Buen provecho, enjoy your meal. Things like that. There's a bunch of different customs that come from Arabic that have influenced Spain, and that's also why Spain is considered a different country from the rest of Europe due to the Arab influence. All right, gracias por mirar. All right, buena suerte en tu examen. Ciao, hasta la vista.